Hey guys, welcome to the video for chapter 6 of They Say I Say, Planting a Naysayer. So this is where we start to introduce the counter arguments into our argument. So our goals here, we want to know what that means when we talk about naysayers. When we're talking about planting a naysayer, what are we talking about? We want to talk about how to do it. How do we actually put these counter arguments? How do we put these naysayers into our argument? And how do we do that in a way that doesn't undermine our argument? And then why do we do it? So why do we want to bring the opposition into what we're talking about? So first thing to talk about is the idea that criticism helps us. It can be uncomfortable, but the fact is criticism and objections to our arguments should make them stronger. We should be willing to listen to the opposition. They have points that we need to address. They help us get better. We've talked about argument isn't about winning. It's about coming to a better understanding. So you don't want to go into argument in an adversarial mindset. So naysayers, they offer our arguments quick improvement. They strengthen our argument. When you entertain a counter argument properly, you're actually strengthening your argument. You're not weakening it. It allows you the chance to establish your ethos while also preempting your opposition. If you say it and disprove it before they even have a chance to speak, they have very little to counter with when it's their turn. Okay? Not planting a naysayer, if you fail to plant a naysayer and address the opposition, you seem closed minded and it undermines your credibility. You seem as though you're unwilling to listen to other people, and that's a problem. So one way to plant a naysayer is to use the nameless, faceless naysayers. You can use terms like some people, skeptics, there are those that believe, similar phrases. That's one way to do it. However, when it's possible, you want to use the second way to plant a naysayer. And that second way is by providing a label for the group. This way is especially effective when the idea or ideas that you're countering can be tied to a specific group or ideology, like liberals, conservatives, teachers, athletes, etc. So it's okay sometimes to use the nameless, faceless naysayer. Some people believe this, skeptics may object to that, but when you have the chance, it's better to label the group. As always, there's a bit of caution there. Even though you're trying to label the naysayer when possible, you have to be careful to avoid using the labels inappropriately or in a way that hurts your argument or undermines your ethos. You don't want to stereotype or mock or insult the group. You're engaging with their arguments. Don't fall into an ad hominem attack which will damage your ethos and undermine your argument, and it will turn your audience against you. It's okay to label the group. It's okay to say liberals may believe this. Don't insult the liberals. You don't say only dumb liberals believe blah 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 or something like that. So, knowing this, two basic ways to introduce the naysayers. So we've talked about how to kind of put them in there. Here's two ways to introduce them. You can ask questions, or you can let the naysayer speak directly in your text. So the first way is questions. If you're going to use questions to introduce your naysayer, you have to be judicious how you use those questions. Too many questions can frustrate your audience and damage your argument. It's also important to note these aren't rhetorical questions. You must answer the naysayer questions you pose. These aren't questions just to get your audience thinking. You have to answer these. If you simply ask the questions and never answer them, you're making the other side's argument rather than your own, and you might confuse your audience. So it's okay to ask the question, but you have to make sure you're answering it. The second way to introduce naysayers into your argument is to allow them to speak for themselves. That is, you can create statements that your naysayers would say. If you do this, you must be sure that your words accurately reflect the naysayer's beliefs. You can't make up words that make them look foolish or unintelligent or mean. You're not creating that ad hominem attack. You're simply introducing the ideas of your opposition in a fair way. So if you look at this example right here, you can see how Joe Jackson does this in the second paragraph, where he lets anti-smokers speak for themselves. So he says, "Get over it," say the anti-smokers. "You're the minority." Right there, he's letting the naysayers speak for themselves. His naysayers are the anti-smokers. He's a smoker. That's the second way to do it. So you can use questions, or you can let them speak for themselves. You have to make sure you're answering, though, your naysayers. When you answer your naysayers, you need to go beyond simply saying they're wrong. Simply saying they're wrong makes you seem closed-minded and immature. It undermines your ethos. They damage your argument. It's more effective and more credible, and it strengthens your argument to concede a point and then refute the rest of their argument. So you can see in these templates how that's done. So in the first one, although I grant that the book is poorly organized, I still maintain that it raises an important issue. Very rarely do we disagree with absolutely everything someone says. There's almost always a point of agreement. So if you concede that point of agreement and then refute the rest, it strengthens your argument. It makes you seem more open-minded. It makes you seem more credible. It also takes away part of their argument. So it's more than just, when you plant a naysayer, it's more than just saying they're wrong. You want to concede and refute. You want to beware of tunnel vision. If you're dealing with naysayers and you're struggling to prove them wrong or to find a persuasive disagreement with them, you need to reevaluate your claim and your argument. Don't simply move on. Don't ignore them. Part of becoming more academically mature is the ability to adjust your views based on evidence. Don't get locked in. If you can't prove a naysayer wrong, if you're really struggling with how to concede and refute with them, you need to look at your claim. Maybe you don't believe as strongly as what you thought, or maybe you don't have the evidence. Maybe the evidence doesn't support your claim. You need to be okay with changing up your claim. So, quick review of what we talked about here. Why do we put in naysayers? Why do we have that counter argument in our argument? It establishes our ethos. It builds up our credibility. It gives us a chance to make that preemptive strike, to take away some of their argument before they can make it, and it strengthens our argument. It just makes our argument better. How do we include naysayers? How do we put in the counter argument? We can do it one of two ways. We can put in the questions, but we have to make sure we're not using too many. We have to find that balance. And we also have to make sure that we're answering the questions. We're not just asking questions to ask questions. The second way, we can let naysayers speak for themselves. But we have to make sure we're being fair, we're being accurate, that we're not creating an ad hominem attack. Alright guys, that covers the video for Chapter 6. As always, make sure you're reading the book. These videos don't replace reading the book. And if you have any questions, write them down, bring them into class so we can talk about them. See you guys in class. Thanks.